Hello and welcome to today's video guide about setting up wireless bridge using Grandstream GWN7600 series access points. In this video, we will explain how wireless bridge works and demonstrate the configuration steps required for this setup. We will cover the bridge mode configuration through both the web interface of the built-in controller and GWN.cloud. A wireless bridge, as you might know, involves two access points that are connected through the wireless medium to extend connection to a location that is separated by distance. In this setup, one of the access points becomes a client bridge to provide connection to wired devices and their remote location. The bridge mode we are covering today applies to locations separated by short distance, in perfect conditions less than 100 meters. In this scenario, we have two locations, headquarters and a warehouse across the street that needs to be connected to the main network. The cost and complexity of running Ethernet cables from the main office to the warehouse can be circumvented by simply setting up a wireless bridge to accommodate the devices that need wired connection to the main network. An important thing to note is that the access point in client mode can only provide wired connection to the devices in the warehouse. In other words, the client bridge cannot be used to provide Wi-Fi connection to wireless stations. Before we dive into the configuration of bridge mode, these are the steps that we need to follow to have a successful and working wireless bridge setup. The first step is discovering and pairing the access points that will be used in the bridge mode setup. Create an SSID and enable client bridge support feature. Add the access points that will be used in the bridge mode as members of the SSID. Assign a static IP address to the client bridge. Select the access point to become client bridge and their access points configuration page. Once the provisioning and the configuration is complete, you simply unplug the client bridge from the main network and install it in the remote location. Once installed, verify connection from devices connected to the client bridge. So now let's go ahead and log into the web interface of the built-in controller of one of the access points and set up a wireless bridge between two access points and verify the connection between them. So to demonstrate the configuration of a wireless bridge, I will be using the GWN7600 and the GWN7610. And I will be using the GWN7600 as the controller. So what we need to do here is just follow the instructions that I outlined in the presentation. So the first step is to go to access points, configuration, and then discover the AP that we would like to use as a client bridge. So I'm going to click on discover AP, and there is the GWN7610. So I'm just going to click on this icon to pair it with the controller or the master access point. This will take a moment for the master to provision the paired access point with the configuration. It's going to go offline for a second, then it will be back online again. Then we can resume our configuration. Alright, so now that the access point is back online, the next step would be to create an SSID that we're going to use for the wireless bridge. You can use the one that you already have, but for this demonstration, I'm just going to create a new one, and I can call it bridge. Make sure you enable the SSID. We're going to leave everything else as the default except for security mode. I'm just going to use open instead of the WPA. And there is another important setting that we need or we must check, which is client bridge support. So we must check this option. So before we save, we need to go to device membership and add the two access points that will be involved in creating the wireless bridge. So let's go ahead, save, and apply the changes. So now that the changes have been applied successfully, the next step would be to assign the client bridge with a static IP address. So I will go back to access points configuration. Then I'm going to select this one, edit. Then I will check fixed IPv4 address, and we can name this one client bridge AP. So it's going to be using this IP address. The subnet mask of my network is 255.255.255.0, and the IP address of the gateway is 192.168.0.1. For the DNS, I will just use my local router, and I can add another one too. Then we'll just go ahead, save, and apply the changes again. This will take a moment to apply those changes. So after we assigned an IP address to the client bridge, we need to enable the bridge mode for that access point. Since I only have 2 access points, the process of selecting the access point that would be in bridge mode is very simple. You just go to this icon that says bridge and click on it. So in case you have multiple access points managed by the controller, you need to decide which one that you're going to be using as a client bridge. So I'm going to go ahead and click on bridge. Then it's going to prompt me with this message: bridge function needs to reboot to take effect, and factory reset can turn off bridge function. So after we apply this change, we need to reboot the access point. So I'm going to click OK. Then I will apply the changes. Then I will go ahead and reboot the access point or the client bridge. So the status will be showing offline because the access point is rebooting. So we're just going to give it a moment to come back online. So after the client bridge completes the boot up process, we're going to go ahead and unplug it from the main network and then take it to the remote location. So after we took the client bridge to the remote location, the status on the access point will change to online bridge. You can check the status from both the configuration page and the status page as well. So now if I go ahead and connect one of the devices like an IP phone to the switch that is connected to the client bridge, that IP phone will be able to grab an IP address from the main network and reach devices also connected to the main network. So after I showed you how to configure wireless bridge using the built-in controller of the access point, now I will show you how to use GWN.cloud in case you are not using the built-in controller of the GWN to configure the wireless bridge. So the first step in the GWN.cloud configuration is, of course, you need to make sure that the access points that you're planning to use for the wireless bridge have been added to your account. So this is something that you do manually. So you just go to add, enter the MAC address and the password that is included in the sticker on the back of the access point. So here I have 2 access points. So basically I'm going to be using the same access points again. So I had to reset them to factory default. So the first thing is we go to SSIDs, configuration, and we're going to create a new SSID. And we can call it bridge. Of course, we have to enable the SSID. I'm just going to leave everything else as the default. So earlier when using the built-in controller, we used open for the security mode. Let's go ahead this time and use WPA2 instead. So I will assign it a password. Then I will go to, okay, it's requiring longer password, okay. So we go to advanced and we need to check this option that says client bridge. And under device membership, we just need to make sure that the 2 devices have been added as members of the SSID. Then save and apply the changes. Next, we're just going to repeat the same steps that we followed during the built-in controller configuration. So we're going to go to the access point. Then we're going to assign static IP address to the access point that will be used in a client bridge mode. So I will go ahead and click on Edit, Fixed IP. Then I will add the subnet, the gateway, DNS. I can add this one as well. Save. And GWN.cloud will push those changes to the access points. So after we allowed the GWN like a minute or two, just to push those changes to the access point and for the access point to apply them, then we go ahead and go to this option right here, which is the icon to set the wireless bridge. So I'm going to click on it. And then it says here that this AP now is in bridge mode, and then the icon will turn into blue color. So once we assign this access point as a bridge mode, I would also give it another minute or two just to allow GWN to push those changes to the access point. Then I will come back here and select the access point and send the command to reboot the access point so that it can take those changes into effect. So after the access point finishes the booting process, I will take this access point and bring it to the remote location and plug it in there so that a wireless bridge will be created between 7610 and the 7600. The GWN7610 has been taken to the remote location, so if we go under the status, it is showing online. To verify that the bridge mode actually works, you can connect like an IP phone to the switch that is directly connected to the client bridge, and it should grab an IP address from the main network. There are a few more things that I would like to mention about the wireless bridge. So in case you decide to remove this access point from the wireless bridge, you basically need to factory reset the access point so you can use it to provide wireless connection to other users. Because as I mentioned during the presentation, once you configure the access point as a client bridge, it will not be able to provide wireless connection, but it will only be used to extend the wired connection over wireless medium. The other thing, if you have the SSID configured with a VLAN, you need to make sure that the devices that will be connected to the client bridge have the VLAN tag configured. Also, when you have an SSID that is used for the wireless bridge, there are a few things that you can't enable. For example, enable captive portal is not going to work for the SSID that is used for the wireless bridge, and you can't use 802.1x. So when you have an SSID used for wireless bridge, 802.1x will not work either. In case you have users in the warehouse that require Wi-Fi connection, the process of providing Wi-Fi connection to the warehouse and connecting these users to the main network is very simple. You just connect one of the access points to the switch that is sitting behind the client bridge, and it should provide the users with the wireless connection to the main network. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave us a comment below if you have a request for any future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date with all our videos. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.